game is over. The Boston Celtics took control of this game towards the end of the first half, that little flurry with 2 minutes left. And then they put 40 points on the board in the third quarter. All right. They put 40 points on the third quarter. And I told you that I said this afternoon when I was doing the Listen App show. All right. That this game would be very challenging for the Kings. This is a schedule game. I talked about that earlier today. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I acknowledge that the Boston Celtics are a better team than Sacramento. I said that earlier today on my Listen App show. I told Ryan at halftime, same thing, okay? The Celtics are a better team than Sacramento, but the Kings really had no chance at all of winning this game tonight based on a schedule. That's not sour grapes. That's not anything other than exactly how I felt, okay? Kyle is a Celtics fan. He's always been a Celtics fan. He's a Patriots fan. We're glad to have him on the stream. Happy that you are with us. Bottom line, the Kings just were not going to compete tonight. Ryan in Sacktown, I'm not shocked by this. I'm really not. There's nothing that happened in this game that surprises me other than I would say this. I thought the Kings played very well at the beginning of the game, but they just ran out of gas and ran out of energy, and they lose 132 to 109, Ryan. 132 to 109. We're going to break it down. It's so good to have you here, even though it's a loss, talking Kings basketball on the postgame. So the Kings lose back-to-back games. I don't have the numbers in front of me, Ryan. When's the last time the Kings lost 2 games in a row?
Oh, Grant, good question. I don't have that in front of me either. I think it's got to be at least 6 weeks.
Maybe the Knicks and the Sixers
on
the road, that 6-game road trip?
Yeah, I think it dates back to that.
Well, again, I'm not – there's nothing that happened in this game tonight that I'm alarmed about. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is a scheduled game, plain and simple. I told you earlier today that this was the likely outcome. I thought the Kings would have a difficult time competing. They were playing against a really good team, 5 games in 7 nights in 4 different time zones. That's the reality of the situation. Boston is a better team. Let's first of all acknowledge that, Ryan. The Celtics are a better team. All right. They played twice this year. The game in Boston, the Celtics proved that, and they proved it again tonight. So I'm not making excuses. It's just the reality.
Yeah, it is, Grant. And let's also be honest, the Kings would have had a difficult time with pretty much any team in the league tonight coming off of that road trip and this the second night of the back-to-back, but especially a Boston team that plays very physical. And as the Kings started to get tired in the second half, Boston got more physical and just brought it that much more.
Stop with the officiating, all right? It's getting so old. The Kings lost by 23 freaking points tonight, okay? The officials had nothing to do with it, okay? Nothing. Stop it already. All right, Kings didn't quit. Good learning experience. Move on. Get ready for the next game. Again, it's a long season. You're going to have schedule games. This was a schedule game, plain and simple. All right, two obstacles you were dealing with: a team that's really good and a schedule game. That's what you get. That's what you get. 132 to 109. And now you regroup. You got a game coming up on Friday against the Phoenix Suns. They're in LA tomorrow taking on the Lakers. No DeAndre Ayton. We don't know if he's going to be playing on Friday. But, after that, you've got the Jazz, who just beat you last night. And then you have the Minnesota Timberwolves. And guess who's coming back? Maybe tomorrow, Karl Anthony Towns.
Yep. So they'll have to integrate him back, but that's another big man. And you know how the Kings deal with length sometimes.
Yeah.
But, the most important thing, Grant, coming out of this is this can't turn into a skit. The Kings just got to take a deep breath, realize they're a good team, get rested, as you said, take a good, nice day of rest, and get your mind right and come into the next game ready to go.
Absolutely. Forget about this. It's 24 hours that you'd rather forget. It's not the end of the world, all right? It's not the end of the world. You're in third place. You're probably going to stay in third place. You might move up to second. That's just the way it is. Again, the Celtics score 72 points in the second half. All right. They scored 72 points in the second half. They took control of the game. Again, I thought that they started to lose this game in the final 2 minutes of the first half, Ryan.
Yeah, and you're right about that, Grant. That's when the wheels started to come off, and the
Yeah,
Kings just didn't have an answer beyond that. The Celtics forced them to defend physically on the other end of the floor, which affects a jump shooting team, especially
that's
when
right.
you're a little bit tired. So it just wasn't their night. It is what it is, and we move on. You take the good from it, and you go to the next one.
All right. So last night, I showed a picture of Kings fans enjoying themselves in Vietnam with their J. Will jerseys, right?
Yep.
And I said, I want to hear from fans abroad. Okay. So I'm going to start off by reading this email that I received, and then I'm going to show you the pictures. Okay.
Sounds good.
So I just was so blown away by this. Hey, Mr. If you don't like that, LOL. Great fan of the Kings and your show. I actually stream all your live shows, and I love the presentation, humor, and the realness of the show and Ryan's cockish ways. Yesterday's game versus Utah, I think the Kings were just tired, period. Also, I am a radio host and on leave took these two pics. I'll show you the pics in a moment. The first one represents the biggest freshwater in the background called Lake Victoria. And the second is a beautiful island. We chilling some funny Celtic fan. LOL. Parentheses, I'm inviting you someday if you're choosing to come and enjoy a country that's gifted with nature and badass organic food. P.S. I am probably the only Kings fan in Uganda, in Africa, currently would love to the brand ambassador, please. All right. So he's from Uganda in Africa and would love to, and love to the brand ambassador. Help me out on this one. Yeah, I need a t-shirt. Much love, Big Kahuna. This is from Uganda. All right. How freaking awesome is this? So here's the first picture, okay, with his Kings hat on. All right.
Nice.
Then he sends me the picture with him and his buddy, the Celtics fan. And there he is with his Kings hat on the right. How freaking awesome is that? His name is either John Paul or Jean Paul. It's Jean, then Paul. So I don't know if that's John Paul or Jean Paul Musoki.
John.
John. So John Paul, so happy that you reached out to me. I exchanged some emails with him, and he said that he was in Sacramento in 2008. I said, hey, I would love to come see you sometime if I can do that. He goes, that would be super cool. I was actually in Sacramento in 2008. Great team it was. I've been a fan ever since. Great state, good people, good luck, and have a great one. How cool is that? How freaking awesome is that?
Donald just hit the nail on the head. Grant International. You start this thing, you ask for people from around the world, and you get that. Had you not asked, you would not know that story.
I would not know that story. And you know what's great about that is I haven't recall receiving a chat message from him. By the way, if you're watching right now, thank you. You have a lot of people in Sacramento and around the world that are watching you, and we're grateful to have you on these streams and your support. I told him, I go, hey, I'm going to be talking about you on the post game tonight. And I'm going to put the pictures out on Twitter. So I would like to hear from you. If you are abroad, send me a photo of you in your Kings gear, and maybe you will be featured on the post game show coming up Friday against the Phoenix Suns.
John Paul, that is so crazy. I mean, Grant, you've got a place to stay anywhere you go in the world. I think. I mean, everybody's a fan. So we've got a brand ambassador now over there. That's awesome. I wonder what kind of radio John Paul does.
I'm going to find out. I told him I want to go over there and go on the radio with him. And he said, man, that would be cool, you know?
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah.
also want an explanation on cockish ways. What does
Yeah,
cockish ways mean?
that could be a local phrase over there. I'm
Yeah,
sure it
okay.
wasn't meant in a bad way, you know?
Yeah, no, not at all. I thought it was kind of funny. I like it.
Yeah. The Celtics played way better tonight. The Kings better use this. Again, I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just telling you the reality of the situation. It was almost impossible for the Kings to win this game tonight. I said that this afternoon at 5 o'clock on my Listen Up show. Did I not, Ryan? I made it very
You
clear
did?
that I thought it would be not only very difficult for the Kings to win this game, I thought it would be very difficult for them to compete in this game.
Yeah,
Just the way it is.
yeah. A rested Kings team would have had a hard time competing with
Yeah.
this team already. But let's look on the bright side. Nobody got injured. Okay, and we're coming
Yep.
off of it. Starters played huge minutes.
Yep.
Sabonis 37. You said earlier, Grant. So.
Mhm.
That's the bright side, and Boston is a contender, and they showed why they are tonight.
Yep, absolutely. By the way, this is the email you should send me the pictures to. All right. Gmail or gnapier at gmail.com. Now, I've also received some others, but I'm just picking one out at a time. Gnapier at gmail.com, and would love to hear from you. The Kings not able to get the job done tonight, 132 to 109. We're
Hey,
getting a
hey,
lot of, I'm just going to say this. We're getting a lot of messages, okay, about the officials. Okay.
yes,
And,
that's
and all right, let's just assume that the officials were bad tonight. Okay. I'm going to go along with you. I'm going to say the officials were bad tonight. That had zero bearing on the outcome of this game. Did not change the outcome of the game in any way, shape, or form. Okay. So if the officials were bad, I'll go along with you and I'll tell you the officials were bad. That had no bearing on the outcome of the game. So stop talking about the officials. It wasn't like it was 132 to 131 and you can harp on some bad calls. The Kings got blown out. They didn't get blown out because of the officials.
and correct me if I'm wrong. The Kings were in the penalty in the fourth quarter with 7:25 left.
Yeah, it was just around
So
8 minutes. 7:25 is what it was. I was
yeah,
going to say the 8 minute mark. All right, so there you have it.
so
Uh-huh.
but here's the thing, I don't think about the officials, and if you want to complain about the officials, be specific. Don't be so ambiguous. The officials were
Yeah,
awful. Tell us what play it was, and we'll talk about
yeah.
it. But the play that summarizes the game for me was in the second half. De'Aaron was all up in Jason Tatum's business,
Mm-hmm.
and Tatum pushed him back twice, separated, made space, hit a 20-footer right on him. And that explained it to me right there. That was how the game was summarized. They were just out physical.
Yeah. Again, the Celtics played their A game, and that's just the way it is. And here it is. Kings got smoked because they were gassed and they were playing better team, period. Bingo.
Amen.
Amen is right. 100%. Okay?
And don't freak out over this loss either. I see
No,
a lot of people, this is terrible. No,
no,
no, it's not a big deal. Not a big
not
deal.
at all. All right, again, 132 to 109. We're talking about the contest. So the Kings now drop another game in the loss column behind Memphis. Memphis is getting John Morant back. It will be interesting to see how they do. And then the Kings are taking on a Phoenix team who tomorrow is in LA against the Lakers. We know about no Durant, no DeAndre Ayton. Don't know about Ayton's availability for Friday as he's got a hip injury.
Yep. Hey, Grant, what do you make of Ja Morant and his comments about his return to the team and his mindset?
I was bothered that he did an interview so quickly with Jalen Rose. It didn't add up to me that he would go through this traumatic experience, get suspended, say, I need to go to counseling, and then all of a sudden you see him on ESPN doing an interview with Jalen Rose. That bothered me. I think the priorities were in the wrong place. I did listen to what he had to say. Was it today? And I liked what I heard. But I've always said this about athletes who are doing stupid things repeatedly. After a while, your words don't mean anything to me. Actions mean this to me. Actions speak louder than words. And I always used to get on DeMarcus Cousins about this. And I'm using him as this example because Sacramento fans are so well aware of this. How many times did he have to apologize in his tenure with Sacramento? Many, many, many times. He would come out after he did something stupid and would apologize. And I
Right.
would say, after that, I would say, you know what? I'm done with the apologies. Your apologies don't mean anything. What means something to me is actions. Actions speak louder than words. So in this case of John Morant, who has had some very troubling experiences over the last couple of months, okay, you know what? You've acknowledged that you have an issue. You went to Florida to go to counseling and try to find the mechanism to help you cope with what you're dealing with. Okay, you know what? I applaud you for seeking help. But now show me, don't tell me. Don't tell me anymore that you're sorry. Don't tell me anymore what you're doing. Don't tell me. Show me. Show me that you're going to be a good teammate, a good player. Well, you already are a good player. You don't have to show me that. Show me you're going to be a good teammate and show me that you're going to be a professional. That's it. Don't tell me, show me.
So would you say that's kind of how it plays out in the locker room for those guys as well? Do you
Yes.
think his teammates want to, does that bug them to see him doing an interview like that instead of just putting his head down, doing the work and proving it to them first?
Everyone's different. I would say that some are bothered by it. Again, actions speak louder than words. The players in the locker room are going to know within the first week whether this is a quote unquote changed man. The guy that I'm more concerned with right now on the Memphis Grizzlies is Dylan Brooks. I think he's a loose cannon. I think he's an embarrassment to the franchise. And I would be equally as worried about him if I'm in the Memphis front office.
Yeah, this is his second suspension for technical fouls. He
Uh-huh.
already had one right this season.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Connor brought up on the Listen app the comments he made about money, and that can certainly rub people the wrong way. But here's what I'll say about Brooks: his play does not back up his mouth, not
Right.
one little bit. I know Draymond can be very outspoken. We've talked about that many times, but Dylan Brooks is no Draymond Green on the court. Let's just put it that way. Dylan Brooks is near the bottom for all qualifiers in field goal percentage in the
Yep.
NBA for guards.
There you have it. All right. Again, the Kings lose tonight 132 to 109. Couple days off, and they get the Phoenix Suns coming up next. Very happy to talk about Bennett's. Brian, I saw him sending a photo from the game tonight. Brian Bennett and Bennett's with two locations currently, a third coming to Rockland. Roseville on Eureka and Lead Hill Road, Sacramento, Howe, and Fair Oaks. Prime seafood and steak. Don't forget about the ribeye that they've got on the week, or excuse me, the prime rib they have on the weekends, the weekend brunch, 50 different types of wine available by the glass, the atmosphere, the food, great at Bennett's. And don't forget, you can, get your food to go. And they also have takeout food, so it's phenomenal. Just go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com. You get all the information, Bennett'sRestaurants.com. And again, they're coming to Rockland real soon. 132 to 109. The Kings get spanked tonight by a very good basketball team. When you watch the Celtics play, when they have their A game, they're a very difficult team to challenge. They're a very difficult team. Milwaukee and Boston, I still think, are the two teams that are going to battle that out in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, Grant, they're extremely methodical, right? And they're both very physical teams. The little things that you don't think about, setting screens, out of bounds plays,
Yeah.
they're spot on. They take those things seriously. And I mean, you look at the rosters for both of those teams. I mean, they have guys that are pros on those
Yeah.
rosters. And they're the real deal. Boston, Milwaukee, like you said. So, and the Kings will get there. The Kings are well on their way to being there if they continue on this course.
Yes, they are. This has been an incredible season. The Clippers, with 5:45 left in the fourth, are tied with the Thunder at 91. That game in L.A. Other games, the Pelicans beat the Spurs tonight, 119-84. Games in the West. And again, the Kings dropped this game 132 to 109. Sacramento now 43-29. And their road record, or their home record's not good. They got a better record on the road than they do at home. 21-15 at home.
Yeah, Grant, and I couldn't help but think we've talked about playoff matchups,
Hmm.
and tonight I felt like you got a little bit of taste of what would happen if the Kings played the Warriors in terms of how the building would be made up. There were a
Hmm.
lot of Celtic fans tonight in Sacramento.
There were, and I expected that. And if the Warriors are in Sacramento for the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of Warrior fans. The same thing's true about the Lakers fans. There are certain things you just have to accept. There's nothing you can do about it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Again, the Kings dropped back-to-back games, 132 to 109. Next three games, you got Phoenix. Don't know whether Aiton's playing. Then you have the Jazz coming in, and all the games have been right down to the wire with the Jazz. And then Minnesota. It's going to be a very interesting dynamic in the West to see how Memphis does with Morant coming back. But now, how is Minnesota going to play with Karl Anthony Towns, who's been out since November? This is a big addition for them. It'd be interesting to see if they can put it together towards the end of the season. That's a team that would make me a little nervous just based on matchups for Sacramento because of their length.
Oh, absolutely. They've played Sacramento tough all year, even without Towns.
Mhm.
And the length, you bring Towns back into the picture, that would be a big problem for Sacramento. And that's a team that, just for the reason you mentioned, Grant, I would not want to see. But there is going to be an adjustment period for Towns getting back into the swing
No
of
question.
things.
Yeah. Again, we get a lot of people talking about all the Celtics fans there tonight. It looked like that. Again, you can't control that. Like
No.
that's the way it is. It's just the way it is. So
Well, all the Boston transplants, they only get to see the Celtics once a year.
exactly.
So that is one thing that you have to consider as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. So again, the Celtics in control tonight. I thought they started to take control with 2 minutes left to go in the first half, Ryan. That's when they started to seize control of this game because they came out at the start of the third quarter and, again, they put a big number on the board in that 12-minute stanza.
Yes, they did. But, the Kings, they still fought back. They were
Yeah, they
within
did.
12 in the fourth
Yep.
quarter. So credit to them for not
Uh-huh.
giving up. But, they knew it was time to call it off. And finally, Mike made the right call to pull those guys out with 5 minutes left.
Yeah. Again, the Wolves could be scary in the first round, but they would be looking at Sacramento as no picnic either. The West is really up for grabs this year, and that's another reason why I think a lot of fans are so excited is because, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Kings could win a couple of rounds in the playoffs. I mean,
No,
the
it's
West
not.
is so wide open right now. Even Denver's not playing well right now.
It's I expect the wacky year to get even wackier. What that means for the Kings, who knows? But yeah, the Kings could roll off a couple, or they could lose in the first round.
Yeah,
But it's going to be a fun ride either way, and we have to. I think fans have to remember the goal was to make the playoffs.
that's right.
So you're playing with house money now, talking about making the second round, possibly Western Conference Finals.
I think when you look at these last 24 hours, it doesn't change the big picture of how well this team has played. And we knew that this stretch would be very challenging. You got to remember the Kings just went 3-1 on that 4-game trip. It's not like they went 1-3. They went 3-1 and then came home to play one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. They got spanked. It's not the end of the world. Now you bounce back against Phoenix, and then you have the Jazz, and then you have Minnesota. So again, the competition is going to be good. Show everyone that you're worthy of the number 3 seed in the West, and go out and get some wins.
Exactly, Grant. I think my only disappointment is the scheduling quirk, right? Because we saw a fair sample size against Milwaukee. Both teams
Mhm.
were rested, and we saw how the Kings measured up to them. And I was hoping to get that same barometer tonight, but it just wasn't going to happen playing Boston the way they
No,
were.
it's again not the end of the world. Anything else? I want to talk about Keegan Murray for a moment.
Yeah.
I don't want him taking 10 threes a game. I don't know how you feel about that. And again, that's not why the Kings lost the game. I just think that's too many 3-pointers for him.
Yeah, it is. I think there's some of those shots can be for Fox. Some of those shots can be for Sabonis. I don't think anybody outside of Fox should be taking that amount of threes. And I know Fox isn't a great 3-point shooter. Keegan has proven that he can hit his threes. He's within 10, I think, or somewhere in that range of being the all-time rookie leader in the NBA for threes. But 10 is far too many. And also, Grant, on the flip side of that, that means you're getting 3 content. You're getting 3 happy. You're not looking at other aspects of making your teammates better, driving to the hole.
Yeah. How about Tatum tonight? 36 points on 25 shots. That's really efficient. He did miss 5 free throws, but he's really good. 8 points. He had 4 assists. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown had 27 points on only 16 shots. The Celtics, they didn't really need much from their bench tonight because all 5 of their starters were in double figures. So they didn't really need much from their bench tonight. Speaking of the Kings, they played a lot of guys because they were getting blown out. So, again, you just tell your guys after the game, hey, let's regroup. I don't want to see anybody in the building tomorrow unless you need treatment. Stay away, spend time with your families. Do what you have to do. Don't even come to the gym tomorrow unless you need treatment, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Yeah, I hope so, Grant. And let me ask you this, since you kind of spoke to who the Kings played tonight. When do you think it is that you're going to see Coach Brown start to really hone in on the amount of players he's going to bring off the bench and who they're going to be for the stretch run?
I don't think he's going to coach this team any differently until the postseason starts. And then I think, again, you don't play back-to-backs. You have time off between games. He will zero in on his rotation. And I think there will be times it could change based on matchups. But, Ryan, you're going to have 8 of the players playing the bulk of the minutes. They're going to be playing a lot of minutes, and that's who you're going to go with. And there are going to be some games when you only play 8 guys. That's just the way it is in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right, Grant. I would like to see, before we get there, some of the other bigs start to get a little bit more run, because if we run into a situation where Sabonis does get in foul trouble in the playoffs, they're going to be in trouble. And we've seen that over the past few games. So I'd like to kind of see another person step up, or at least have the opportunity to step into that role to where we feel confident bringing them in if need be.
What we've seen this year from the Kings, they're not the top tier of the NBA. They're in the tier right below that. And that's good. That's fine. They're not a top tier team like Milwaukee and Boston. Okay. They're now in the next tier. And we can add, Philadelphia in there. You can add whoever else you want in there. But if you want to take 4 teams and put Denver in there, I think if you look at the total body of work, I would put Denver in there. Then the Kings are in the next group. And that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. You take Boston out of the equation, Milwaukee, maybe Philly, and Denver, and the Kings could beat any team in the league.
Well, Grant, how many teams make the conference finals? You just named 4. And I know that most of them are from the East, but that's top 4 teams in the league. So that's good company to be in, just a tier below. And, you speak of that tier below, it's wide open, as you mentioned earlier in the show. It's only going to take one of these teams to make a run the way this Western Conference has been this year.
Did I say the Kings played well tonight? Did you hear me saying that? Here's what I said. I said I liked the way the Kings played in the first half. I did not say they played well tonight. I also said on my Listen App show today that I would be very surprised if I was on the postgame show with Ryan talking about a win, and I actually said I don't even think the Kings will be able to compete in the game tonight. This is a schedule game. Okay? The Kings weren't going to win this game. Boston is a very good team. They're a better team than Sacramento. But had the Kings been on equal rest, this would have been a close game. Celtics would have still won, in my opinion, but the game would have been a 4 or 5 point game. The Celtics are not 23 points better than the Kings. They're not. This was a game that the Kings had little to no chance of winning based on 5 games in 7 nights in 4 different time zones. I've done it before. Okay, none of you have done this before. I've been on teams, okay, on the planes, in and out of hotels, going in and out of time zones, all right? I know what it's like to come home after a road trip, okay? You have a lot of distractions, particularly for the guys that have families, okay? Their kids want to be with them. Their wives want to be with them. Oh, but it's game day, okay? First thing they got to do is get their rest, but they want to see their kids. They want to see their family. Their priority really is more on their families on the first day than it is on playing basketball. That's the reality, okay? That's why we always talk about teams that struggle at home after they get off a road trip, particularly to the other side of the country. Why is that? For the reasons that I just mentioned. I've gone through it for 32 years, all right? I was very confident today in saying that I didn't think the Kings would be competitive tonight based on the situation that was a horrible schedule. The NBA should do better than that. A team should not have to play 5 games in 7 nights in 4 different time zones. And the last night is a back to back against a team that's had off for 3 days. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous.
That's insight right there, people. It is ridiculous. I'm not going to make an excuse for the NBA, but March Madness is going on right now, and there's a lot of scheduling in terms of the different arenas around America. 'Cause a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the games take place in NBA arenas, so that may have played into it. But yeah, it is ridiculous no matter what team you're playing. I do want to ask you, because I really like this question from Carl, how you were talking about the tiers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, or what is the one thing that would take the Kings into that next tier with the elite teams you mentioned?
I think that they need a backup veteran point guard, and they need some real toughness down low, some size to go along with Sabonis. Okay. Those are the two areas that I really think if the Kings can do that this offseason, they can jump up into that elite status.
So, do you think the Kings, and I know we're jumping ahead here, do you think the Kings really try to bolster defense or add to offense? And
I
I,
don't think, you know what, Ryan? We talk about this every year: defense, defense, defense. And you hire
right.
defensive coaches, and the Kings' identity is to outscore you. That's what they're going to do. They're the number one scoring team in the league. That's how they're going to beat you. Generally speaking, if you change the makeup of your team, in this case, you're talking about defense, then all of a sudden you're not going to be as good of an offensive team. The question is, does that translate into winning a championship? And I don't have the answer to that question. But the Kings' identity is they have a dynamic point guard in De'Aaron Fox, one of the best in the business, and they have a consummate all-star down low. That's their bread and butter. You have to build around that, which they've done, and Monty McNair's done a great job. You don't need a lot in this offseason to perhaps make that jump where you can win the West or be a second seed or a third seed again. I would also say this, and you cannot ignore this. The Kings have been the beneficiary of a lot of injuries this year. They have. Let's just call it
Yes,
the way it is.
that is true.
So I don't have a crystal ball any more than you do. But like if Kevin Durant's healthy next year and Devin Booker's healthy, the Suns are going to be really good. When I look at other teams in the West, Denver's going to be really good again. Memphis should be really good again. I mean, there are a lot of teams that are – Dallas, to me, is going to change the makeup of their team this offseason. I don't know about them. The Clippers are an aging team, so I'm not really sure about them. But
Don't
there are
forget
a lot
about
of
OK.
teams – what's
Don't
that?
forget about
I
OKC.
was just going to go there. I think Oklahoma City is going to be a playoff team, barring injury, for many years to come, particularly if they draft well.
Yeah, they got Holmgren coming back. They're gonna SGA.
Yep.
They're gonna be something special. I think one thing that could, and you and I have been big proponents of the veteran backup point guard. We were screaming that at the trade deadline, but I think the Kings need a legitimate third option. And I'm not putting down Harrison Barnes. They need somebody
Mm-hmm.
that can create their own offense and can get a bucket for you. You look at, the Bucks makeup with Middleton, Giannis, the other guys. They've got that third option. The Suns, best example. You've got Durant, Paul, and Booker,
Mm-hmm.
right? If the Kings could get that third guy and put them into the starting lineup, I feel like that would really, really bolster it. And that would probably
Yep.
have to come through free agency at that point.
Hey, I want to tell you about New Works Plumbing of Sacramento for all of your plumbing needs and repairs. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. Again, New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you, and they're available around the clock 24/7. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com. Hey, don't forget, tomorrow, right here at 3 o'clock, Jerry Reynolds will join us. We'll talk about tonight's game. We'll also get his thoughts on Willis Reed, who died today at the age of 80. Jerry and Willis were very close, and he'll share some stories of being around Willis Reed. That is coming up tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So 132 to 109, the final score tonight. The Celts get the victory. Kings need these days off. They need the days off. All right. They're exhausted right now. Get ready for the Phoenix Suns on Friday.
Yep, Grant, take advantage of the days off, get your body right and mentally get right, get some time with your family and recharge those batteries.
Amen to that. All right, buddy. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow with Jerry, 3:00 Pacific. And I hope you have a good evening and put this one to bed and move on.
Sounds good, buddy. Thanks, partner.
All right, good stuff there from Ryan in Sacktown. And again, tomorrow at 3:00, right here, Jerry Reynolds. All right, looking forward to that. And don't forget to send me your photos to gnapier@gmail.com, and we'll have some fun with it. And if you're joining us late, great to see from Uganda. All right, John Paul. Great stuff. Thank you so much for your email, your photos. You and your Celtics friend, I know he's getting the bragging rights on you tonight, but love the Kings gear, sporting the Kings hat in Uganda. Good stuff. All right. Be well. Make it a fabulous evening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Jerry Reynolds at 3:00. So long, everyone.